Welcome back to the Overplayed podcast, the home of sports and sports gaming in your ear every single Thursday. My name is GoodGameBro, and I'm just here to ask you to leave a 5-star review on your favorite app, possibly even the Apple Podcast app. That would be greatly appreciated. And the more 5-star reviews we have, the more strands of hair that will ascend from the ground back into the black and gray beard of my co-host, Mills. Mills, how are you?
It's almost back. Like, there's no skin showing anywhere, right?
I don't know if it's like almost back. I mean, you've got like what I would have if I didn't shave for like a couple of days, but you know.
Here's the problem is it's back. It's now contoured itself to all 4 of my chins. So it's not hiding those like it did before. I have to have my chiseled features are not there until the beard is like 3 inches around them to protect them from showing to the public. So we're getting there slowly but surely.
Are you sure you know what chiseled means? Do you need me to look that up for you?
I'm aware. It's like my chin is like an Adonis when there's a beard hiding it.
You know, never mind. You probably didn't really pass Greek mythology.
Greek mythology is like literally one of my favorite parts of history. Between Greek mythology and King Arthur's medieval times, and I'm not talking about Andy Dick, running king at, like during Cable Guy. Those are my 2 favorite historical times of all time. Don't come at me about Greek mythology. I will run you ragged.
Yeah, whatever you say, Adonis. I'm vomiting. If you have the video version of this, you're vomiting as well. Mills, what have you been playing the past week?
Been messing around with, MLB The Show. We moved back a little bit into franchise. I actually created a Cleveland Guardians franchise. Someone updated all the logos and they have it up on the vault. One of the cool things MLB The Show does. So I just started a franchise. I subbed the Cleveland team out for the Guardians. Guardians aren't a name that you can use for teams, unfortunately. Obviously that'll change next year, but that'd have been cool. So, but they're spot on. Like I have the spot on road alternates. I have the home ones with the nice, I love the font they're using for the C on the cap. For those who don't know, obviously we're talking about Cleveland Guardians are the new announced team for the Cleveland Indians. The Indians will move to the Guardians for next season. Not changing most of their branding is just getting rid of the Wahoo Indian, for obvious reasons.
About time.
But yeah, exactly. But the Guardians is a great name. They actually explained it. I think a lot of people were hoping it was going to be the Spiders. I kind of like the Guardians name better. It kind of flows better with going from Indians to Guardians. And they explained it like what Cleveland was, like the Guardian City. So I'm okay with that. The jerseys look fire. The new logo is iffy. It's like a G with a baseball with wings. I'm not a huge fan of their alternate logo, but like I said, the font's cool. So we started that in MLB The Show, and I went back to Road to the Show, having a lot of fun with that. I'm excited there's a game coming out, and by the time you listen to this, it'll be out on Game Pass. Game Pass again, by the way. It's called The Ascent. It's like an action RPG, like a Diablo-esque. Interested in it. It's going to be a lot of co-op, a lot of PvE, so very obviously big PvE guy here. One other game that I have tried out, well, I'll go 2 games here just because per time. Final Fantasy 14, I've gotten into the first time ever. So I'm playing that on its trial right now. Enjoying that. I don't know where the hell I'm going to find time to play it because it legitimately, I think, takes 400 hours to go through the main story. And also, I've tried out New World. I don't know if you've seen this game. It's kind of taken over Twitch and streaming for content creation recently. It's on its beta. Doesn't officially come out. I think we talked about this last episode. Doesn't come out until August 31st officially. But it's like it's an MMO, but it has action RPG combat in it. So we talked about, I think last week, where we talked about like the guns are hit scan. The melee has dodging involved in it, which is something that most MMOs don't have. So it's interesting me. I am a little worried the combat can be a little repetitive, like the combos that are involved in it. I don't know what long term the game has, and I want to see more of what their roadmap is. But having fun with it for now, as it is, super excited for Madden, man. I cannot wait for Madden this year, and that's something I haven't been able to say in a lot of years. So that's like another couple of weeks. What about you? What's been going on in the old bro household?
Yeah, man. The biggest thing for me has been Halo Master Chief Collection. I've put
getting ready for it.
I put more time into that game in the past week than I think I've ever put in that game, and it's been out for years at this point. In fairness, it had so many issues at launch, and I get why. It's a massive undertaking, and it was super ambitious. Wish it would have worked a little bit earlier, but that game is unbelievable. The value in that game is crazy. I mean, I was running Halo 3 ODST competitive, then I was jumping into like Shoddy Snipers and Team SWAT into King of the Hill and just jumping through. And like the nostalgia was pouring through my veins, as was the hatred for certain maps that I just cannot stand. But dude, I've been really, I mean, that's what I'm playing the next couple of days. We have the Halo Infinite beta obviously coming out today, if you're listening to the podcast on day of release. So I watched the hour-long stream they put out for that today. Looks phenomenal. They showed real 4v4 gameplay, professional players playing, so people around my skill level, not yours, and seeing how good that game looked with like actual uncut gameplay was just oh my god. And they showed, to give them credit, they didn't just show like, oh, here's PC on ultra settings. They showed the Xbox One, the original series, like the original Xbox One, and they showed the Series X.
This wasn't even, not the Series X. They weren't even doing the Xbox One X. They were doing original Xbox One gameplay, like OG Xbox One, which was really super exciting to see. I agree with you. One last question before we move into the sports gaming, because we do have a bunch of sports gaming stuff going on right now. Have you heard of Splitgate?
I have. My brain isn't intelligent enough.
So it's a game that is Halo crossed with Portal is what people are describing it as like a competitive arena shooter. Looks really interesting. It looks like it takes a lot from Apex's arena as well, the new arena mode. Obviously, it's been out for longer than that, but it feels the same way. I love the Portal aspect. I love the class aspect they do. It's something you might want to look into. I know for your highbrow shooter, if you're getting into Halo, this might be something. It looks like it's starting to take off with a lot of creators coming from. Obviously, a lot of people are trying to find their way out of Warzone. For multiple reasons now, by the way, not just Warzone being filled with hackers, which we won't go into, obviously, but a lot of people trying to find their way out of Warzone. Splitgate looks like it's picked up some slack while people are waiting for Halo to come out, so might be something to check out at some point. Speaking about checking out, we talked about this a lot this year. Madden is going all out with communication this year. They have put out multiple articles, multiple videos, multiple podcasts. They're all over. It feels like more this year than any other year. They're all over all kinds of platforms. Xbox is tweeting about their this week is ratings reveal week, which is always a big week for them because they get to involve a lot of the NFL players or even the rookies. Like, what do you guess your rookie is? What rookie rating is? I've seen it on ESPN. I've seen it on Bleacher Report. I've seen it on Xbox. Dude, Steam tweeted out a top 10 list of like best 10 tight end or fastest 10 tight ends earlier. Steam, mind you. And now don't get me wrong, I understand that EA Play is in Steam now, but Steam not really known for their sports gaming. It's a PC based. I think that's huge, seeing so many different platforms tweeting out like different pieces of the ratings reveal. It's very hard to follow. I will say that. And I do like again our friend Swami and also friend of the show, Equipment Guru, who are the the heads of the ratings department, are interacting with a lot of fans this week, going over, has somebody been snubbed? I even went after Equipment Guru earlier today. I said they saw the top 10 running back change of direction ratings, and I was like, J.K. Dobbins isn't on there. He absolutely should be. And the dude's shifty as hell between the tackles, and Equipment Guru was like, approved. And I was like, you're damn right he is. So I'm getting ratings up for the Ravens as we talk this podcast.
Always cheating. Not surprised.
Cheating? What? It's your only chance
to beat me, Madden. So
all the help we can get, because Lamar coming down with COVID for the second time. So
yeah,
we'll talk about COVID in a minute too. So but your feelings on the ratings reveal in general, like how they've done this, and just overall, doesn't it feel like a bigger event for this Madden release than it has before? And maybe that's because I love franchise. I know you do too. Maybe it's because of all the franchise upgrades, but it feels like a bigger event this year than it has in the past.
No, I agree. I think what that team has done a really good job. Shout out to their marketing team. It really feels like a 360 marketing campaign, right? Like they're touching anything and everything. They're like, oh, you are tangentially, I can't talk. Words are hard. I'm blaming the braces, but you're associated with football in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's the team, I even saw Schefter was tweeting out stuff. They have different outlets covering it across the board. ESPN is giving
ready for this. Hold on,
coverage.
this literally just came out as we're talking. Not to cut you off.
Okay.
Ed Reed is going to be on First Take tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m. previewing the top safeties. Ed Reed is like literally previewing like the best safeties of the game. This is insane.
But again, that shows like 360 marketing. We're getting teams. We're getting people that are covering the NFL, that are analysts, or people that are breaking news like Schefter. You're getting top players. They have Chad Ochocinco, who's Swami's assistant, if you read his profile properly, which is hilarious to me. Like they are doing so much to get as many people as involved. And to your point earlier, it is hard to follow a lot of it in some way, shape, or form. But at the same time, they're covering so much, so much of an area. And it's kind of hard to like not see it somewhere and then get it jogging your memory to then go look out or seek out the rest of the information. So I love what they're doing. I think all sports games should be doing something, of this nature, of making it grandiose. If you are a player, you care about your rating. I remember people being in NCAA, even when it wasn't technically them.
Technically them, right?
They cared. Like they wanted to know what their rating was. Or if their guy was off, they were tweeting companies and be like, no. In this basketball game or in this football game, like that's not what I look like. I should be looking like X, Y, or Z, or my jumper should be better. Like players care about their ratings, and I love that they're leaning into it.
You ready for this? I'm on Madden's official Twitter account. They're retweeting a lot of the information. Let me go over over the first like 20 retweets. You ready for this? The NFL and ESPN's Twitter account, Steam, Sports Center, the Vikings, the Raiders. You expect those. Gators football, Florida Gators football, talking about the fastest tight end being Kyle Pitts. Washington football team, Carolina Panthers, Schefter talking about the top running backs and tight ends, as you talked about before. Let's see here. ESPN, the Rams, Mark Nelson Media, like just a graphic designer for ESPN. One of the graphic designers is doing this now. Just insane how many. Pat McAfee. I saw him doing ratings on his podcast. Like unbelievable amount of just hype around the releases here. It's so cool to see, because as a Madden creator and just a Madden fan in general, like before it felt like they were always hiding something or only giving you like little pieces. Now I feel like they're going, here's the game, man. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, we'll fix it. Like that's what it feels like this year. And it's the first year for a while I've really felt that way.
A long time coming.
Yes.
I agree.
Talking about things I'd like to see fixed. So I talked about earlier how I've gotten more into Road to the Show this year. Especially recently. I don't know if you know this or not, but in one of the most recent updates, because people were abusing the XP system to get through a lot of the inning programs in Diamond Dynasty, well, there's an XP system that's linked to the ball player, who's now your Road to the Show guy. Your Road to the Show guy is now linked to your Diamond Dynasty team. It's the same player. When they did this, what they did was they made a nerf on how you can get XP for your program for your loadout. So your loadout is like any other program. You have to get a certain amount of points before you can go from like bronze to silver to gold to diamond, right? I found out today I'm playing games. One of the coolest features about Road to the Show is you don't have to go out to the clubhouse and back in all the time. Just play next game throughout the series. Well, found out today, if you play next game, you lose all of your stats to any of the programs. And when I inquired about this, I was told I'm assuming, because this wasn't the way this was, that this change was made to attack XP bluffers. So again, mind you, the Road to the Show being connected to Diamond Dynasty gets a swift kick to the nuts for people playing that mode offline or actually playing Road to the Show. And instead, that you now have to back out to the clubhouse, back into the game, back out. By the way, loading screens, as quickly as they are, they're still there. And if I have to see Ben Selman's like face, like, don't get me wrong, I love the podcast feature. I see the same goddamn podcast over and over and over and over. Yes, I understand I'm not hitting well. I understand I'm swinging pitches. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. I don't need to hear it every game. And the way I could skip that before was play next game. But if I do that, I lose out on all my plate appearances or my extra base hits or whatever I'm working on at that time. Oh my God. Can we, I pray I pray they learn from next year, because I still read that article that they put out before, like at the very early point of release, where they're like, "Don't worry, guys. We completely understand that Road to the Show for the offline player is a very important part. And we're going to make sure that you can only play Road to the Show on offline. And you don't have to do anything else except, when you're screwing over your offline player base, because your Diamond Dynasty player base can't keep it in their pants long enough to get through a inning program on its own. And don't get me wrong, those people can do whatever they want. If it's a glitch, it's a glitch. But for 22, can we please separate these back out? Like, this is insane that offline players have to deal with this because you can't get your online interface right.
I think there's a couple things that I love here. The first thing that I love is that you were literally weeks behind on knowing that this is a thing.
I got back into Road to the Show and didn't even realize it was happening. I was like, so what happened was I played through a series, and then I went to the little progress bar where it says the progress you make in the program, and it says plate appearances. It shows how many plate appearances and I only got credit for 5 of them. And I was like, wait, I played through a 4-game series. I had more than 5 plate appearances. So I went in testing. I went in purposely in 2 games back to back, and it only counted the 2 in the plate appearances in the game, because I wasn't getting any hits, so I had to count something. So in the second game, and I was like, wait, what? So then I started backing out of the clubhouse every time. I was like, wait a second, this is bull crap. There's no reason for this.
The other kicker to this is that it has never been an offline mode in terms of if you want to get things that are associated with the program. Mm-hmm. So if I play on Xbox, you've the quick suspend or quick resume feature.
Yeah.
And so let's say I'm playing MLB The Show, and then I'm playing a little bit of Halo. I come back to MLB The Show. I'm obviously disconnected from the server. They don't have anything on your side to sort of backlog that you played 20 games, even going the method of playing a game, backing out, playing a game, backing out. So if you don't realize you're not connected to the server, you then get no progress. I spent one day, 2 hours on a Saturday when my kids were napping doing that, and then realized I got no progress because I had no idea that I was disconnected from the server, because there's nothing that really tells you that.
Yeah, you know when else it does it? When you try to trim a clip on Xbox. It's the only game I know of when you try to trim a clip and upload it, it literally kicks you off of their online server. It's the worst. It's the worst. I don't like, I think I love the show. I still think it's a good game. I think it's a great game. I've had my issues with it, obviously, but their absolute ignorance to offline gamers this year is a slap in the face, and they don't hear about it because most of the people online are Diamond Dynasty players, and I fully understand that. Like, that's where the squeaky wheel is. But I've talked to enough of these developers. I've talked to enough of these people where they keep telling us the commitment is there. The commitment is there. The commitment is there. It's time to start showing those cards, or just admit that all you want is your online engagement.
Yep.
All you want is that online engagement number to go up, and creating a mode where Road to the Show goes into Diamond Dynasty allows you to do that. Let's be very fair on what it does. It pushes people into Diamond Dynasty because they figure if you already have your player that you're already messing around with, you're more apt to go into Diamond Dynasty and use that player, which again, I think is cool, but not at the expense of ruining the offline quality of life, which is what it's doing very slowly. Well, much faster than I would hope it would have at this point, but it's already showing that you can't even do play next game. If you do play next game, you're losing stats on loadouts for offline players, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And if you cannot fix your online glitches, then you should find somebody that can, and not just nerf a whole side of the game because you don't know how to fix it. Period.
Also, copy what NHL does of having separate offline and online progress, but you can still keep the appearance of your player, the look and feel, the cosmetic aspect of your player, that's shared. But the attributes are entirely separate. That's what I think all sports games should do.
I think, especially in NBA 2K, I would love to see NBA 2K split the offline, the My Career and the court. I know they like to link those two together because it gives you like something to do on both sides. I would love to see them go to more of a class-based system for online, where you could grind a class-based system and then use your My Career as your My Career and keep those separate. Just personally. I think Madden is starting to do a decent job with that as well, where it's like you have your yard player, but your yard player is kind of like, I don't mind yard and like the superstar mode together. I start to worry when like if like the yard player turns into like a mutt player. That's when I start to go, okay, wait a second, this is not what we sold out for here. So but talking about games that do things amazingly well, Knockout City Season 2, titled Night at the Movies, is out, starting, I believe, 2 days ago from when you're going to listen to this. Dude, the season pass looks amazing. A lot of references to like current and past movies. Obviously, they can't say directly things.
Sure.
A lot of cool cars. There's a new ball, the soda pop ball, which looks cool. New maps, new modes. They continue to do the Rocket League thing here, where they're saying, you know what? We're going to base all of our cool stuff around cosmetics. If you want to buy it, buy it. If you don't, guess what? It's not going to affect the gameplay. It is still the simple to pick up arena style, hard to master, really tough if you get into like some high ranking matches, where I am. One day you'll get there. It's okay if you ever play the game again. But really, really awesome stuff from what Velen Studios is doing with Knockout City. I will say the one thing that I want changed is the seasons are 2 months long. I feel like that's got to shorten up a little bit to keep me engaged. I think PGA did this too. PGA 2K did the same thing, where their clubhouse pass was just entirely too long. And I get it for like, you want your casual users to not have to like grind it so hard, but I feel like I get through their season passes really quickly.
Yeah, I think over time, like you see with season passes for games that haven't done those before, or like the battle pass sort of style, you got to give them a little bit of time to figure out, right? Like I think there's sort of the estimation, and then over time they're seeing like, okay, and we look at our buckets of like, what are our casuals, what are our intermediate, what are our hardcore users sort of go through for like a path. You need something that like, yes, your casuals want to go through a good majority of it. You need your hardcore users to be able to complete it, but not complete it too quick. I'm sure it's like a lot of balancing, but battle passes are still not that old in the industry. Like it feels like they are, but not a lot of companies have done it yet.
Super new to sports games.
Yeah,
super new to sports games. Yeah. So I agree with you. Like there's obviously, it's like when new modes come out, I think we are hyper critical of them. Like something like I'll use this for example, because it's something I've had some criticism on, is the BR program and the ranked season program for MLB The Show. The BR program being very low odds to pull one of the program players for mission points. And for ranked seasons, it's just a win counter. Like you have to get 40 wins, and 40 wins on a 9-inning game, if you don't get any quits, is a lot. So yeah, you want to see more tuning. Obviously, again, like you said, Fortnite is I think the one that really popularized the battle pass a couple of years ago. Sports games are literally just getting into them mostly this year. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, especially it brings up a really interesting question. I think we're going to have a conversation with at some point, is that how close to free to play are sports games with going maybe in that battle pass kind of cosmetic feel?
Well, what is it? Esport? What is
esports football?
Yeah.
Esports football, which is what PES used to be.
Yeah, they're going free to play.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
again, sorry, we didn't really talk about, because I mean, we had so much on the radar, but as GGP just said, esports football used to be Pro Evo soccer, is going completely free to play in a way to compete with FIFA. And that's what this is. This is a direct way to compete with FIFA. A lot of the way that, if you guys remember NFL 2K, do you remember? NFL 2K5 went to $20 to compete with Madden that year, and didn't really turn out well. But this is what esports football is doing. They've decided we're going to change our name. We're going to make it a free-to-play IP. There's going to be a lot of customization you can do that's probably going to be paid for, like a lot of online customization. That's such a...
I just think
it's such a risk.
I think I haven't looked at it a ton, because again, I've really played PES and God knows how long, like since the 360.
Right.
It just felt like when I looked at what they were doing briefly, they're launching super bare bones, even for like a free to play experience. And then everything they have is going to be, they won't even have a lot of things like a la carte at launch. It's sort of like a little bit down the road, they're going to have like modes you're essentially used to. So I don't know if they really went about it the right way, but they're going to be the guinea pig for the industry.
Yeah, especially because you have to think. So it says, according to the roadmap published by Konami, the game will launch with the ability to play local matches with a selection of clubs, as well as the ability to play cross-gen matches. Same family. Later in the autumn, the game will add support for online leagues and a team-building mode similar to the My Club and PES titles, which is their Ultimate Team. Cross-platform matches will also be implemented at some point, allowing different console families to face each other. Plus, also Steam will be involved in that, along with a season pass system. Then in the winter, Konami plans to add iOS and Android players to cross-platform matches. So you're going to have mobile versus console versus computer. And there is a full road. I'm looking at the roadmap right now. There's going to be tournament kickoffs going in winter. Cross-generation, cross-platform, match pass, which is going to be their battle pass system. Dude, this is a lot of stuff going on through winter. And even their mobile support shows like your mobile with a little controller underneath it. Dude, mobile cross-gen with a console could be massive. It could be absolutely massive. So we'll see. And again, they're also introducing a new engine this year as well. They're calling it
Unreal,
motion
right?
matching. Yeah, well, yeah, it's gonna be on Unreal, but it's gonna be new text called motion matching, which converts, quote unquote, converts the vast range of movements that players make on the pitch into a series of animations, select the most accurate one in real time. It sounds very similar to Hypermotion, doesn't it?
Yep.
It sounds almost exactly the same. So, yeah, this is gonna be really interesting to have them release, because most sports games are already live content. That's the path they are taking. Most sports games are taking. So they're legitimately going, hey, look, we're going to release it for free, and live content is going to be what supports it. If you want these things, you can purchase it as pieces later on. You're right. It's the guinea pig. I wonder if they're successful, you got to think how soon other sports games are behind it. So that is really, really. But let's talk about sports. The biggest story this week, bar none, is the Olympics and a lot of the U.S. team shenanigans that are going on. But one of the biggest, it's not even one of it is the biggest. Simone Biles, who is the all generation gymnast for the U.S. Olympic team, she's bowed out of the Olympics. At first, it was due to quote unquote an injury. What we found out is it's due to mental health. She is having mental health issues. I don't have the exact. Let me see if I can find the exact reasons. But this took a turn on social media the way it normally does, unfortunately. To many social media quote unquote analysts, saying that she's weak, saying that she is letting her team down. Saying that she's a gold medal athlete, she should be out there competing for her country. I really don't think people understand. We're still at this stigma that mental health is not something that we should be dealing with. It's something we should be pushing into the closet and, standing up big and bright for the camera and being like, hey, everything's okay. I'm competing for Team USA. That's not the way it works. Unfortunately, like, these things are real. And it was kind of sickening to see a lot of the reply to Simone Biles pulling out of the Olympics in general.
It's unreal. There's something very important that she's doing that I think people are sort of looking past. One, when we talk about, gymnasts, right? Simone Biles isn't a gymnast. In my opinion, she is the gymnast, right? She is the GOAT. She is the most accomplished, best gymnast we have ever seen. We're not talking about.
She started her floor routine with 2 moves named after her. Like, how else do you just flex on everybody? You say, you know what? I'm going to do the 2 moves literally named after me.
Literally built different. Like, right. Built different. But I think if we talk about important things with Simone Biles, right? We all remember, or we should remember, 4 years ago, roughly, whatever it essentially was, the Larry Nassar case. Obviously with the sexual misconduct and sexual assault that was done to, I believe, well over 100 different gymnasts through the American system that we had seen.
Yeah.
She is the last remaining gymnast that was a part of that essential group.
Yep.
She's come out and said that if she were to retire, like one of the things that's sort of keeping her going at this point, like if she were to retire, there's really nothing that is forcing the hand of USA Gymnastics to keep pushing forward and reforming and doing all these different things. Like that's part of the reason. Another thing that sort of came out earlier today was they were talking about when she came off, she said that she had the twisties, which I didn't know what the heck that was. So I had to look it up essentially, but it deals with, from my understanding, like disorientation for gymnasts as they're doing all these different somersaults and flips and different moves that are obviously you're going to be massively disoriented. I don't think people understand as well that one, again, she has moves literally named after her because she's the only person on the planet that can do them and the only person that can actually land them in competition. But if she is doing these insane advanced moves and she were to again have the twisties and miss or miscalculate like she did, she was supposed to do 2.5 rotations on one. I think they said she did 1.5 rotations and somehow still landed it. If she does those incorrectly, it's not just a twisted ankle or something like that, or maybe a more severe thing like a broken leg like we might have in a traditional combat sport like basketball or football or hockey. This could be something where like she could snap her neck, she could literally be paralyzed. Like these are career and life altering things that could be happening to her. So you take all that into account, and then to your point earlier, you talk about mental health all the time. People still have this weird stigma where they're like, when someone says they have mental health, people are still like, oh, they're just having a bad day. That's not what that is. Having mental health issues isn't just, oh, you're having a bad day or you're bummed out or something didn't go your way. Like this is an entirely different thing. And if one of America's most talented athletes we've ever produced has been through all the things she's been through over the last decade or so, and she comes out and just says like, look, like I'm dealing with some things. She doesn't need to come out and tell us what those are. Like we don't need to know. She does not owe us that, but we owe her the responsibility to say, you know what, you're right. Go take care of yourself. Take care of number one. At the end of the day, take care of yourself. Because if something were to happen to Simone Biles, you'd be saying, oh, where were the signs? Why didn't she tell us? We weren't worried about her like we should have been. You don't want to wait until it's too late. You want the athletes to be proactive and not have us be reactive to the outcomes that we've seen far too often for our favorite players and people.
Yep. I've talked about it multiple times on my stream and publicly. Like I'm in therapy. I go to therapy once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks. It's something that I've dealt with for a long time, and it's helped me immensely. I've talked about all the time how men in this country are, we are, curated and told, there isn't supposed to be anything wrong with you. You're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to be better than that. And in this case, it's sort of the same thing where Simone Biles is being taught, hey, you're a United States athlete. You're a gold medal athlete. You're supposed to put on the smile. You're supposed to be the role model. You know what? She's being a role model right now. She's doing exactly what a role model does. And that shows, hey, vulnerability is okay. It is okay to not be okay. And I think she is showing that on the biggest stage that she has right now. So let's hope all the love and support out to Simone Biles. Jade Carey and Sunisa Lee are gonna represent the United States amazingly in place of Simone Biles. Let's let her get right on her own. And as you said, she's the last remaining victim from everything that happened to that team. You know what? She has every right to do what she needs to do to get right in the head. So, like I said, love and support out Simone Biles. Other side of the Olympics, maybe Greg Popovich should take a mental health break.
Go Duke, bring him back.
No, don't do this. Don't do this. This really hurts me. So, U.S. Olympic team lost to France. They did come back and I think they blew Iran's doors off by like 50, but it's Iran. Let's be fair. I don't think Iran has one NBA player on the squad. Rudy Gobert about dominated the entire American team. And one of the things that's coming out of this now is questions on whether Greg Popovich is an effective Olympic coach. And to be fair, Olympic coaches do a lot more than just coach basketball. They manage a ton of egos. And Greg Popovich is one of those guys that, if you have an ego to him, he normally ships you. Well, if you're in San Antonio and you have an ego, you're normally not in San Antonio long. Okay. Is there some credence to Greg Popovich maybe not being able to handle these players correctly and maybe not being able to put all these superstars in the right places to succeed?
I think there's smoke, there's fire, but I'm going to say yes, there is an issue, I think, with Popovich and his style of coaching and some of the players, but I don't think it lies solely on Greg Popovich. Keep in mind, Greg Popovich is one of the greatest NBA coaches to ever grace this planet. Pop is a phenomenal coach.
The greatest.
No, he's an incredible coach. I would argue Larry Brown is one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time. That's a talk for the other day. But So again, Pop is an incredible coach. He's a student of the game. He's a phenomenal human being. If there's ever a person that a player can relate to, and a person that a player can feel confident in sort of their conversations with, I think Pop is one of those dudes that if you get to know him, from what it seems, incredible. I think we have to also keep in mind what NBA players have been through over the past year and some change, right? They are also coming off a season that is an incredibly condensed schedule. They lost 10 games, but lost 2 months of the schedule. Kind of insane. So every single player here is been through the gambit. We have some players who just got off of playing a couple of weeks ago and aren't getting really...
Drew Holiday.
Yeah, Drew Holiday, Book, who I don't think is playing like an insane amount. And then Middleton, obviously, as well. I think there's just I don't want to liken it to crunch in the gaming industry, but I think it's similar in a way where these players are just exhausted. Mentally and physically, I think a lot of the players are exhausted. And I don't think some of these guys are really ready for being in the Olympics, being on that stage, and then dealing with a coach that is Pop's style, right? Pop isn't a player's coach unless you are bending into that system. Then I think he's definitely a player's coach from that perspective. If you're a guy who's sort of like resistant, to your point, you're not going to gel well with typically Pop or his system unless he has an insane liking for you and sort of wants to bring you within. Right. This to me is more of like a Krzyzewski would have been, I think, still a very good coach for this team. I think a Spoelstra would have been a very good coach for this team. I just think it's a mixture of Pop and his style, players in the crunch they've essentially been through. And I'm hoping they wake up, because right now Kevin Durant scoring 10, 15 points a game isn't really the move. Like you need more from some of these major players.
Way more than what they're getting right now. So their next game, okay, so they did beat Iran. They lost to France, beat Iran. Their next game is going to be against the Czech Republic, who, again, another team that doesn't have a ton of NBA talent on it. Thomas Satoransky's on this team. Lubos Kovar's on this team. Outside of that, there isn't a whole lot of NBA talent. That being said, I understand where you're coming from with the crunch that they have had to have with these NBA teams, but the teams that are beating them have NBA players have gone through the same crunch on it right now. Okay, so while I fully understand and I agree with you that the NBA crunch is different than anything these players have had to endure. We talked about 72 games with 2 months less than the season. Plus, a lot of these guys had playoff runs, Durant included. Drew Holiday's there. But again, we say that, and then Luka Doncic's out here dropping 50 or 40. What was it? 44, 11, and 5 or whatever the hell he dropped.
Yeah, but what
in his game?
What means more, Luka playing for Slovenia or one of our guys playing for Team USA? It means. I'm not saying it doesn't mean something to players that play for Team USA, but it means so much more for those dudes to go play for their home country and then play against Team USA. That those dudes grew up as kids wanting to play for their Olympic team against Team USA. They didn't care about Argentina. They didn't care about Spain. They didn't care about anybody but Team USA. And I think that's part of it too.
It's just so tough when I bring up Luka Doncic, because it's not like he wasn't going against Iran when he did this. He was going against Argentina, who's one of the better U.S. Olympic basketball squads. And he's out there dominating after having, by the way, he was injured in the last round of his NBA playoffs when they were facing off against the Clippers. He was injured playing in that series, and now he's in the Olympics playing like a god, an absolute Slovenian god. I don't fully by Slovenia. I had to think about that. I had to think how Slovenia went to Slovenian. I didn't know it was going to be like Slovak God, maybe. I don't know. Listen, I'm not a man of culture. I'm a man of sport. Okay. This is how it works. I want to give all of the slack that I can to not only Popovich, who I have the biggest soft spot for being a Spurs fan. And I do truly believe, like we have the arguments, I truly do believe he's the best coach in NBA history. There is something that doesn't work when Pop gets too many superstars together. Okay? That's the thing. So when Pop was at the top of his game, it was Duncan, who was not a superstar mindset. Parker, not a superstar mindset. Ginobili, Kawhi back then was known. David Robinson is the epitome of not being that guy. Even Kawhi, before Kawhi left the Spurs, Kawhi was known as quiet, not that superstar guy. Like, he was uber talented, a great defensive player, big time team player. Now that he's on other squads, when he went to Toronto, now he's in LA, he's seen as kind of, I don't like to use the word on anyone but Aaron Rodgers, but he's seen as kind of diva-ish. He's seen as kind of standoffish with a lot of the places he goes. Pop doesn't do well meshing these things, and this is something that, God, why am I going to say this? Oh, let me have this one. Please don't comment on this. It's something Mike Krzyzewski did really well.
Go do
Mike Krzyzewski, especially running what he has done at Duke for so long. Mike Krzyzewski is one of the best handlers of men and their egos that I've ever seen. Okay? It's one of his specialties at Duke. He's a great basketball coach, don't get me wrong. But handling egos is one of the things the U.S. Olympic coach has to do. And I don't think Pop does a great job of doing that. And I think that's where this struggle is happening. Obviously, again, we talk about all the other national teams getting better with more NBA talent on it as basketball becomes a worldwide phenomenon. Like, it is literally growing faster than most any sport not named soccer/football. They're gonna have a big problem. They're gonna need somebody that handles people way better than Pop does. Pop's obviously coming down to the end of his career at some point anyway. They're pretty much grooming Becky Harmon for that job in San Antonio at this point. If no one else is gonna hire her, I guarantee that Becky Harmon will be the next coach of the San Antonio Spurs if Pop ever leaves, which, knowing Pop, he would probably leave just to make sure Becky Harmon got it. But this isn't the spot for him. And that pains me to say. This is not the position for Greg Popovich.
I think the other thing we didn't touch on that I think is fair is I don't think the talent selected for this roster, I'm not saying these dudes aren't talented and didn't deserve to make it, but I think this roster is built much more the way that you would build, a super team in NBA 2K. And then you would have a chemistry of like a 15%, right? This team is not built in a way that is built to play top end basketball from a chemistry, movement of the ball, things of that nature. This team is definitely built more so to, like, you got superstars, we got guys that can score in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's coming to bite them now. I really wish they had built it in a different way.
Quick hitter real quick. Which team was better, the 92 team or the 2012 team, in your eyes?
I got to look at the 2012 roster deep because I know the 92 team top, but I need to look at the.
I mean, I don't think anyone in our age bracket doesn't know the 92 team top and bottom. Look at the roster. Like, the reason I want to say this is because you mentioned team composition, and one of the things the 2012 team got knocked for was their team composition was not what the 92 team had.
I mean, I'm looking at this though.
But setting Christian Laettner aside for the 92 team, right? Setting Laettner aside because they wanted to have a college player. They were built to be a basketball team. There were a lot of egos, a lot of top players in that team, but they were built to be a basketball squad. They had a little bit of everything. They had interior defense, exterior defense, 3-point shooting, Obviously, athleticism. They were playing against the worst players in the world, obviously, but 2012 team was very much knocked on their team composition a lot. And I think you're onto something with this team really having issues with team composition.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the 2012 team now. Like you have Tyson Chandler, a younger Kevin Durant. Right at this point, he's still at OKC. You have Miami LeBron, which Miami LeBron is having the most fun of his career essentially at this point.
Correct.
Westbrook in OKC, again, earlier OKC, so he's not as ball dominant as he essentially became a little bit later on. Deron Williams, when he was with Brooklyn, that dude is just grasping at straws and hoping that somebody will keep him onto a roster at this point, because he's starting to hit a decline, but he's still a serviceable player offensively. Iguodala, you talk about a dude that's a Swiss Army knife, like that. Iguodala in 2012 in Philly, that's the dude you want on your roster. 3 and D, well, a little bit of 3, mostly D. Can get up and down the floor, works well in transition. Kobe, we already know. Kevin Love in Minnesota, that was a different Kevin Love. Harden in OKC hadn't ascended yet, but was still incredible. Chris Paul in the Clippers, Anthony Davis in New Orleans, Carmelo in the Knicks. I mean, I don't know who would win, but bro, the 2012 versus 92 would be an incredible match to watch.
To be fair, the 2012 team would lose on the interior without question. Like, I like Tyson Chandler. Tyson Chandler was built on Chris Paul. Chris Paul built Tyson Chandler.
What? If they play by today's rules, I think they stand a chance.
I mean, you're also thinking about Anthony Davis on the New Orleans Hornets, who hadn't really come into his own. He had to play the 5 for them.
92.
That's what I'm saying though, is if you look through the grouping of how this team was built extremely small. And there were times where it looked like it may have cost them. It didn't, thankfully, but there are times where people thought that may cost them. Now, granted, they were small and had incredible talent to be able to go through that. But you look at the team that's in 2020 right now, it's sort of the same thing. Like they're not talented enough to get by missing key positions or missing, intangibles. They're not talented enough to do that. And again, some of that's on Popovich, some of that's on, their injuries. A guy like LeBron being injured, Anthony Davis obviously being injured. They're missing some big time names. They had to bring JaVale McGee in. Okay. We laughed about this last episode. JaVale McGee is a United States Olympian. Like,
don't let your dreams be dreams, Yeah,
right. Okay. Whatever. So that's why I kind of wanted to bring up the 92-2012 argument, because I think one of the arguments against the 2012 team is they were uber talented, but not quite built to be a basketball team. They were built to be a basketball. They were built to be the what are they called? Not the Generals, the Globetrotters. They were essentially built to be the Globetrotters, not to be a solid basketball team. Whereas the 92 team, even though they were the Globetrotters, they were a fantastic basketball team. So, but to build basketball teams, GGB, you got to start in the draft. As you folks hear this, the draft will be tonight or it will already have happened. It's happened on Thursday night. Oklahoma State guard Cade Cunningham is the overwhelming favorite to be the number 1 overall pick by the Detroit Pistons. The Oklahoma City Thunder even came in and tried to trade their who I'm going to call all world, because I think he really is that talented, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the number 6 pick, tried to get into the number 1 spot, and Detroit declined them. They're so high on Cunningham. Outside of Cade Cunningham, who we know is a superstar, well, no, this is about as sure thing as a superstar as you could possibly get. 6'8", 220, active on the defensive side, hops out of the building, can shoot all kinds of ton of things. But after Cade Cunningham, we're talking what? The Jalens? The Jalens?
I love how popular. We should talk one day about how Jalen Rose helped popularize the name Jalen. Like his mother, shout out to his mother actually there's a really good story about that. But the name Jalen has risen literally because of that, man. Insane. Jalen Green, I think, has to be the next pick. I don't know if Houston stays or if they trade out, but I think Jalen Green will probably lead all rookies from this draft class in scoring. That dude, looking at some of his highlights that he's put out from his time in the G League, we're talking about a 19-year-old kid that still is light from his frame, but the kid is out there with grown men, past and former NBA players or whatever. At that point, is some that are going to be NBA players. And he is putting in absolute work. His ability to create his shot off the dribble was something I was really knocking him for coming into the G League. He has significantly improved there. I think Jalen Green's going to put up 20 plus points a game as a rookie if he goes to a team like Houston that'll let him shoot a ton. I think Evan Mobley's going to be fine, but again, you have issues about like, can he face up to the basket? He's more of a back to the basket, sort of running the floor a little bit guy. Suggs, I think, is going to be fine. I think he's going to be he's not going to blow you away, but he's going to do everything that you sort of want him to do. I think he's going to be a better George Hill when George Hill hit his peak. But I'm not sold on Suggs being a superstar per se. Scotty Barnes has probably one of the best wingspans in the entire draft. Kuminga is going to be a stud. Super Raw is going to be really fun. I'm trying. There was one other that I wanted to hit. I have a shout out to my guy Jalen Johnson, who just got flagged a little bit because he ended up leaving Duke early, but he's going to be fine. Davion Mitchell, and then the other one that I wanted to hit is I think Zaire Williams is going to be like a lot of fun. This kid is almost 6'10". He needs to put more weight on. He weighs the same amount.
The kid out of Stanford. Yeah. The kid out of Stanford. Yeah.
I think he's going to be a really fun prospect 2 to 3 years from now. But his problem is he weighs the same amount as me and he's like 6 inches taller. So he's got to obviously fill out his frame, but he will. He's young. This isn't an overly crazy deep draft. We're not looking at the 03 draft, but man, those first 7 to 8 picks are going to be fun. I think there's going to be some really good potential like NBA All-Stars coming out of that.
I have seen on multiple mock drafts in the 3 slot, the Cleveland Cavaliers going with Evan Mobley, 7 foot out of USC. Can I just, I need to know, I know you're an Ohio guy. Okay. I know you're a big Cavaliers fan. How many bigs can the Cavaliers stack in their roster before they just give up?
I don't understand.
They're gonna be doing NBA My Team. It's gonna be NBA 2K My Team, where you put as many 7-footers in the lineup as you possibly can just to play good defense, right?
I just don't understand how Cleveland's building their team. Like, we have a dumb amount of guards that are fairly identical in terms of like style of play. We're stockpiling centers right now, and I don't understand why. If they're going to get a center, I don't want Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley's going to be a fine player. I don't want Evan Mobley. I'd rather they trade out, or if Jalen Green falls to them, God help us, take him ASAP. If they take a center, I want them to take Charles Bassey out of Western Kentucky. If Bassey hadn't tore his ACL, I think twice on both knees, the dude would have been a top 10 lock easy. But you tear both ACLs, you're going to deal with that.
You can't take him.
No, not there. No, not there. I'm talking about early second round if he's there.
Yeah.
Or you trade in back of the first round, get Charles Bassey. But I don't want a center in the first 3 picks. No, get it somebody different.
After the first 5 picks, all right, I'm going to give you here. I'll give you the 5. I'll give you the 5 that I think have the most immediate impact. 5 of the most immediate impact right now are Suggs and Green, Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes. Okay. After the first 5, I think we're going to see more action in this draft than we have any time in recent history, because there's so much of a talent drop off after Barnes. Again, looking over some of these mock drafts, I'm seeing Boonite, Giddey, Kuminga. I'll take that back. 6, because I'll give Kuminga. I think Kuminga. I agree with you. I think Kuminga's up there too. I mean, you're looking at Euros. You're looking at freshmen out of like Moses Moody, Franz Wagner's up here. A guy like Davion Mitchell's up here. Trey Murphy out of Virginia. Like all these guys that are missing significant pieces of their game. I do think we're going to see way more movement, especially. I mean, you got a team like Oklahoma City who has more picks than I think they can count at this point. You got Golden State, who's got the 7 and the 14. There's no way they pick 7 and 14. Like you're either going to trade up or you're going to trade out and get some more stock. The Knicks have multiple first round picks. The Rockets have multiple 20s in the 20s. I think the big story of this draft is going to be how many people trade their picks or trade value out to try to move either up or back further for in in future drafts.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for this draft is don't expect a lot of these guys to be immediate impact guys. You have 5 to 7 that are going to be potential to be immediate impact for you or to be, good contributors. But I think there's a lot of guys that are very high boom or bust, right? A couple of names just to watch out for, especially getting in the second round. Sharif Cooper, again, if he grows a little bit, I think he can be a very good contributor in the NBA. Brandon Boston Jr., stupid versatile skill set. He has the potential to be very similar to Brandon Ingram from a play style. So I think if he can be in the right system, I love what Brandon Boston has. Herb Jones obviously did really well in the NCAA tourney for Alabama. Matthew Hurt, Duke. Matthew Hurt is a dude that can be a knockdown shooter for you. Josh Christopher at Arizona State. Greg Brown out of Texas. At 6'9", I think he's going to struggle a little bit with figuring out his role in the NBA. But again, he grows another inch or two. He keeps developing his game. Could be really fun. And then the last guy I'll give you is Isaiah Todd. Isaiah Todd is going to be the teammate of Jalen Green in the G League. Isaiah Todd is an absolute stud. He needs a little bit more time to develop his game. I think he's a 3 to 4 year project. But if a team holds on to him and gives him an opportunity, Isaiah Todd could be a very good NBA player.
I can absolutely see that. I can absolutely see all of those. Again, I think the biggest problem is because all of them have significant holes in their games. I think this becomes we've seen drafts where like the top 10 picks are all, hey, look, these are all going to be solid players no matter what. I think after you get past Kuminga, it really turns into, well, this guy's a risk at 6, or hey, this guy's a risk at 8. Like, I think I've seen more of those this year than any year that we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Let's talk about risk for a second. You're Nike. Kyrie has a signature shoe coming out. Kyrie is not exactly happy. Talk to me about Nike and Kyrie.
Yeah. So, Kyrie Irving, I feel a certain way about his shoes because when I got crossed over by James Harden, I was definitely wearing a pair of Kyrie's. So, I feel a very particular way about those. But anyways, Kyrie has the Kyrie 8s, which are probably scheduled to come out in the fall, or were at least scheduled to come out in the fall this year. They pretty much do a fall release calendar for him. And then over the next 6 to 7 months, they do different colorways and things and align them to different social calendars and stuff. They do a lot of really cool stuff. Kyrie put on Instagram today, I'm pretty sure, among a lot of things, these are trash. I have absolutely nothing to do with them. Nike plans to release it without my okay, regardless of what I say, so I apologize in advance. I have nothing to do with the design or marketing of the upcoming Kyrie 8. That is crazy in a lot of different ways, right? You talk about transparency, you got it. Between Kyrie doing that and Kevin Durant's tweet that he had about Cuffs of the Legend today, which was probably a Hall of Fame tweet from KD, if we're being honest, that level of transparency is insane. Now, doing some digging, it sounds like what quote unquote insiders are saying. Who knows? Insiders are saying there's been a major contract dispute between Kyrie and Nike about an extension, and that is fueling a lot of this. The rumor is that Kyrie essentially, due to the extension talks sort of falling through, Kyrie was very upset, and he's just sort of not been working on the shoe. So in fairness, he has nothing to do with the marketing or design of the shoe. And because of that, when he saw the leak that came out apparently about his shoe, that caused him to go to IG and sort of trash the shoe. I can't think of really a player speaking out about a shoe this wildly, except for Kobe when they put those space, the was it the Nike? No, it was Adidas. It was Adidas, yeah. The Adidas Kobe 2s. That were those space locker looking ones that were one solid material. Those were the ugliest shoes I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, I remember this. It's crazy seeing Kyrie Irving, it's Nike, man. You're just stepping up and admitting that they're Nike's just simply screwing him over and saying, you know what, this isn't my shoe. This isn't something I approved. It's got my name on it on contract only. It is wild seeing what athletes will do these day and ages, just to be like, listen, this isn't me at all. I don't know what you want me to do. And going up again, like you said, just talking out against Nike, who is going to pull out now. Nike's not going to sponsor him after this. This is it. The Kyrie 8s are going to come out and they're done with him. So
yeah,
I don't know, man.
I respect the transparency and ability to say, like, I'm not involved in this. Like, calling him trash was like maybe a little too far, but like a lot of things about Kyrie I can respect from what he's doing, right? His activism, his advocacy, all the things that he does. I always think that Kyrie means well and has the best intentions. Sometimes his execution, I'm like, I think there might have been a different way to sort of go about that. But at the end of the day, I can't fault him for essentially what he does. Just sometimes the execution, I'm kind of like, there might have been a different way. But, if you feel strongly, be true to yourself. Godspeed on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Hey, listen, if you're not following Kyrie or Kevin Durant on all social media, you should. It'll give you the smiles you need to remind yourself that you're a human being and some people aren't. Talking about human beings and moving around. So baseball's trade deadline is coming very fast. We just had Joey Gallo getting traded to the Yankees of a pending medical review. We've had Sterling Marte go to the Oakland Athletics for Jesus Luzardo. We have Eduardo Escobar moving from the Diamondbacks to the Brewers. But one of the things that's sprouted up that's going to be hurting on this trade deadline is the Washington Nationals have had a huge COVID outbreak in their clubhouse to the point where they've canceled the Phillies series to them so far. And the number one trade target in there would be, one of the biggest trade targets is Trey Turner, who was the first case. But now they're saying multiple players, multiple coaches all have it and have come down with this quote unquote mini outbreak. Trey Turner was on the move. Trey Turner was going to be traded. And now, because he's got COVID, there's a good chance he does not. Another player in that clubhouse is Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer almost certainly was getting traded to a team like the Padres, the Dodgers. I think the Yankees and the Mets both kicked the tires on him, although I think he pretty much said he wouldn't waive the no trade clause to go to the Mets if it was the last thing he did. Sorry, Shea fans. This COVID is starting to pop up all over the place. There's a Delta variant going around, obviously. I mean, you can find out about it in the news. We've talked about COVID way too much on this podcast already this year. But affecting the trade deadline in what could have been a massive trade deadline for the Washington Nationals and even possibly for the Phillies at this point. Do you think that this is going to have a major effect? And are we going to see this start popping up around Major League Baseball as a whole in the next week or two?
Yeah, I think so. The weird thing about baseball's trade deadline isn't really like a trade deadline, though. Like, I know they have a trade deadline, but I feel like every year, like for weeks after the trade deadline, there's always dudes getting moved from like waiver claims and stuff. So I think we're going to see some weird finagling and things to make some stuff happen. But this definitely throws a major wrench in plenty of teams. I would say upwards of probably like 8 to 10 teams are going to be severely impacted by potential trades they could have made, essentially.
Yeah, and it's going to be rough because, again, trade deadline for Major League Baseball is one of the most fun times going. And as you said, it used to be different because the non-waiver trade deadline in August, a lot of players could get pushed through there because people didn't want to pick up their contracts. That changed a couple of years ago. So It's going to be a weird August. There's a little part of me that wants Major League Baseball to push this back a little bit, to push the trade deadline back, which is unheard of, by the way. I want them to push it back by like a week or two just to kind of try to corral the COVID issues. I guess the issue is the Delta variant apparently affects vaccinated and non-vaccinated, affects them differently. Obviously, the vaccine lowers the symptoms and makes it so you can't pass it on. But we have so many athletes, and again, I promise I won't get into this deeply, but there's so many athletes that are coming out. Like TJ Ward today came out the stupidest set of tweets I've ever heard of.
Ron Rivera stuff. Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah. So let's get into this real quick. We'll close the podcast because I know we're talking trade deadline, but I want to talk about TJ Ward here in a second. For those who don't know, TJ Ward is a safety of the Broncos. He is anti-vax. And again, I'm not going to tell people they shouldn't be vax or anti-vax. That's a personal decision. Obviously, there's a ton of, scientific research to go into that, which I won't get into here. Okay. his tweet, his set of tweets, because Ron Rivera said he was disappointed in the vaccination rate of the Washington football team, considering he's immune compromised with the because he beat cancer. I mean, he literally beat cancer. TJ Ward essentially said that maybe, in not so many words on Twitter, maybe Ron Rivera should have chosen not to get cancer. And maybe you should have chosen better health choices in order to, prepare yourself for COVID. Like Ron Rivera chose to get cancer.
I think it's Wednesday. I'll just go ahead and have a side of cancer, please. Thank you.
Yeah, please. Cancer sounds like something I could, let's just fight cancer for a few years. By the way, Ron Rivera, a hero around the NFL for this fight against cancer, and one of the most beloved coaches by his players in the entire league. He's known as a player's coach. He's known as overly going to bat for his players when he was in Carolina. And again, this is the apology that TJ Ward put out. Gonna address this one more time. I was not trying to be insensitive to anyone affected by the cancer. The
Walmart.
I know you don't choose to get cancer. And I tried to clear that up. If you know me and my career, you know what my support is for cancer people dealing with it. I've been affected myself closely. I didn't mean to offend you. God bless. So essentially his agent got on his Twitter and said, you dummy, you screwed up. Okay. And then to add on to this, Cole Beasley, a wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills, decided to come on to a press conference with his mask half over his face, by the way, not even over his nose, and said the vaccine gripe is over differing standards once players have proper information. By the way, Cole Beasley, one of the players that have come out and said he is anti-vax because he doesn't have all the information, and he's one of these conspiracy theorists that, the government is tracking him or whatever.
CTE is a hell of a drug.
To be clear, the reason all these arguments are coming out about the NFL is because the NFL has come out and pretty much said that if you are the cause of COVID, if you have COVID, or if you come down with COVID for any reason, you are unpaid for those games. If you miss a game or cause your team to forfeit a game, your entire team is unpaid for those games that you miss. Okay, you do not get your salary. That is their stance because they want their players to vaccinate. And obviously there are players that are not going to want to do this. Per Cole Beasley, I'm not anti-vax or pro-vax. I'm pro-choice. With that being said, the issue at hand, I'm sorry, I'm laughing because his method of wording is glorious. With that being said, the issue at hand is information being withheld from players in order for a player to be swayed in the direction he may not be comfortable with. When dealing with a player's health and safety, there should be complete transparency regarding information that is vital in the decision-making process. Without having all the proper information, I'm like, you want me to keep going here?
Cole Beasley
put
his tweets,
his tinfoil hat on, nice and solid.
If you read his tweets, I promise you need Rosetta Stone to decipher them sometimes. I read one of his tweets, I kid you not, 7 times, and I kept looking at it, and I was like, bro, I have no idea what he was trying to say.
I'm just the quotes go on. He went on a little rant on this. Dude, it's good. Hold on, I know we're over, but you got to listen to this, man. You got to listen to this. For so many players around the NFL, safety does not solely mean avoiding the COVID virus. Our health is now and years beyond, which we are trying to protect with our personal choice while doing all the things we did in our protocol during a very successful 2020 NFL season. A successful 2020 NFL season where you had no fans in the stands for most of the season, and you had teams literally missing players every single game due to COVID problems. By the way, teams were rescheduled for Tuesday games, Wednesday games, Saturday games because of this very successful 2020 NFL season, by the way. Sometimes stuff gets out in social media. Oh God, you don't know how to interpret it. This is Brandon Beane. Brandon Beane, the general manager for the Bills, going to bat for Cole Beasley. This is let me be very clear. Get vaccinated or do the research if you don't want to do it. Understand that don't be Cole Beasley. Please don't be Cole Beasley. I'm sorry. This turned into, so for those who don't know, we were not planning to talk about the COVID virus, but seeing such ungodly non-researched people like Cole Beasley going into this and going, you know what? I'm going to go on a press conference with my mask around my mouth and not around my nose and be like, listen, y'all, it's time. It's time we start playing a football game, okay? We had a very successful 2020 NFL season. We're going to have a very successful 2021 season, and it's not going to matter because I'm not going to get paid for the games I miss either, but I'm a very rich man. It's okay. Come on. Like, what is going on in the NFL these days? And to have TJ Ward legitimately be like, maybe Ron Rivera should have chosen not to have cancer. Like, is this really the NFL needs to put a kibosh on all social media from their NFL players for the season to be like, listen, put your phones away. It's not worth your time.
My brain still hasn't recovered from reading TJ Ward and Cole Beasley's tweets in the same day. It's been a tough one. I will say though, good luck in free agency, Cole Beasley. That's probably coming soon for you. With that being said, great show. Don't play anymore. Road to the show.
No, don't talk the road to the show with me. That blows. That fires me up like you wouldn't believe. I can't believe they ruined offline. Not ruined. I can't believe they took a major quality of life feature out of offline to make sure that online players couldn't do XP faster. That fires me up like you wouldn't believe.
It do be like that sometimes. If you haven't already, leave us a 5-star review, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts. We'll be back next Thursday with another fire episode. Mills, the beard's coming along. I'm going to give you props.
I appreciate that. Real quick, I'm going to repeat this because I know we have a very heavy male audience. It is okay to not be okay.
Amen.
If you need to get help, literally reach out. If you want to reach out to me in DMs, reach out to me in DMs. You want to reach out to GGB in DMs, he closes them, so
They're
ignore
open,
that.
you dummy.
But legitimately, find somebody to talk to, find somebody to help, get professional help. It is okay. If you're a guy, you do not have to just bury that crap deep within, okay?
Amen. Hey, you guys know the deal. Be safe, be smart, tell somebody you love them. Catch you guys in the next one.
Ciao.